Okay. All right. So like, picture this, right? You're trying to have like, heart to heart
Yeah.
with your teenager,
Hmm.
and they're responding with the attention span of a goldfish,
Yeah.
right? Eyes glued to their phone.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all been there, right? It's like trying to decipher a secret code.
It can definitely feel that way, yeah. Sometimes it really is like they're speaking a different language.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
So, you sent over this article
Right.
called "Effective Communication Tips for Better Bonding with Teenager,"
Yeah.
and at first glance, it seemed like common sense advice.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping we can kind of go like beyond the surface here, really dive deep.
Absolutely, yeah. I think the article, it's from a lifestyle website, right?
That,
So it's a great springboard, I think, for a deeper dive. And what's interesting is how these practical tips, like they actually connect to like the developmental stage teenagers are going.
okay, color me intrigued. So our mission today is to kind of take these tips and make them actionable for our listeners.
Yeah.
How can we use them to truly improve communication and build a stronger connection with the teens in our lives?
Yeah. Let's get into it.
Great. So the article starts off strong, right? Emphasizing active listening. We
Right.
all know it's important.
Hmm.
But like, how do we make teens feel truly heard and understood?
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, sometimes like just hearing them feels like a Herculean effort.
Well, think about it this way, right? Teenagers, they're at a crucial point in their development where they're trying to establish, their independence, their own identity.
Right.
So active listening sends a powerful message that their thoughts and feelings are valued. And research has actually shown that teens who feel heard by their parents are more likely to make healthier choices.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting. So it's more than just lending an ear. It's about validating their
All
experiences.
right.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so then the article dives into asking open-ended questions.
Okay.
Even giving some examples like, what was the most interesting part of your day?
Mm-hmm.
Versus just a simple, how was your day?
Right. Right.
Which, seems
Yes.
pretty basic, but what's like the real impact of these types of questions?
Well, I think it all comes down to perspective, right? So instead of feeling interrogated, teens feel like you're genuinely curious about their lives, about their world, and those open-ended questions, they encourage them um, to elaborate, to share their thoughts and feelings, which ultimately strengthens the connection between you.
You know what? You're making me realize that I'm probably guilty of asking those closed questions more often than I thought.
Yeah.
It's like I'm looking for a specific answer
Yeah.
instead of really trying to like understand what's going on in their minds.
Yeah, I think we've all been there, right? It's a natural tendency.
Yeah.
But just being mindful of the types of questions we ask, I think can make a huge difference.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, next up, and this one's a challenge for me, patience.
Mm-hmm.
Even the article acknowledges that teens need time to process.
Yeah.
But why does it sometimes feel like they're moving in slow motion? Like what's going on there?
Well, remember, right, their brains are literally still under construction.
Oh, that's right.
The prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for things like decision making, impulse control, it
Oh.
isn't fully developed until their mid-20s.
Wow.
So add in, the hormonal roller coaster, the social pressures.
Yeah.
It's no wonder they need a little extra time to process everything.
So it's not just them being intentionally difficult. There's
Right.
there's actual science behind it.
Exactly.
That's helpful to keep in mind. I'm starting to see this whole communication thing less as a battle and more as a process.
Yeah.
Speaking of process,
Yeah.
the article talks about creating a quote safe space for teens to open up.
Yeah.
Sounds a bit cliche, but I get the concept, right? Like no judgment, no lectures, just a listening ear.
Mm-hmm.
What are they like the long-term benefits of fostering this kind of environment?
Well, this is where it gets fascinating. Imagine you're a teenager struggling with something. Maybe it's friend drama or school stress or even something, more serious.
Yeah.
Knowing they can come to you without fear of judgment, that builds an incredible foundation of trust.
So even when they're like pushing boundaries or making choices we don't agree with,
Yeah,
the goal is to kind of like stay calm and create that judgment-free zone.
absolutely. It's about separating the behavior from the person, right? So you can disapprove of a choice without making them feel judged or rejected.
That's a great distinction. Okay, The article also emphasizes honesty and transparency.
Hmm.
Obviously, we want to protect our kids from certain things.
Sure.
But how much is too much when it comes to being open with them? Like, where's that line?
It's a delicate balance, but teens have a finely tuned radar for inauthenticity.
Hmm.
So sharing age-appropriate personal experiences, even struggles you've faced, that can actually be more powerful than any lecture.
So instead of preaching, we're modeling vulnerability and open communication.
Exactly. It normalizes their own experiences, and it shows them that everyone goes through ups and downs.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Hmm.
Okay, this next one resonated with me, mainly because I'm probably guilty of it. The article is very anti-lecture.
Okay.
It suggests framing things as conversations, not orders.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that so crucial for teens? Because, let's be honest, sometimes a good lecture feels very satisfying, like in the moment.
I hear you. But think about it from their perspective, right? At this stage, they're craving agency, a sense of control over their lives.
Hmm.
And when we dictate, it shuts them down. But when we invite them into a discussion, we acknowledge their opinions and we empower them to participate in decision-making, which in turn often leads to better outcomes.
It's like we're shifting from a parent-child dynamic
Mhm.
to more of a mentor-mentee relationship or something.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it.
This whole treating them like mini adults thing is starting to make a lot more sense.
It's not about relinquishing authority, right?
Yeah.
It's about giving them the tools and the support they need to navigate the world with increasing independence.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, this next one is tricky, respecting their privacy.
Yeah.
Where do we draw the line between wanting to know what's going on and giving them the space to breathe?
This one's a constant balancing act for parents, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Respecting boundaries, even when it's hard, actually strengthens the relationship.
Okay.
It shows you trust them to make their own choices, even if you don't always agree with them.
It's like that saying, give them roots and wings, right?
Yeah.
We want them to feel secure and supported,
Hmm.
but also free to explore and learn on their own.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And when they know they have that space, they're more likely to come to you when they really need guidance or support.
This has been so insightful already. We've covered active listening, asking the right questions, patience, creating a safe space, honesty, ditching the lectures, respecting boundaries. It's clear that these seemingly simple tips are actually tapping into the deeper psychological needs of teenagers.
It's all about understanding where they are developmentally and adapting our communication style to meet them where they are.
Right.
Huh.
Okay, on to empathy,
Okay.
which I know is huge EE when it comes to connecting with teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
The article gives the example of a teen upset about friend drama.
Yeah.
We might think it's trivial,
Right.
but to them, it's their whole world,
Absolutely. Everything feels so much more intense at that age. And remember, they're navigating these social situations for the first time. So empathy isn't about having all the answers or solving their problems. It's about validating their feelings.
Yeah.
Letting them know that their feelings are real and that they're okay to have.
So even if we don't have the perfect solution, or maybe even fully understand what they're going through,
Yeah.
just saying something like, that sounds really rough, I'm here for you, can make a big difference.
Absolutely. It shows you're on their team, you're in their corner. And that kind of support can be incredibly powerful for a teenager who's trying to make sense of their world.
Yeah, it's about creating that sense of security and connection, which is so crucial during those turbulent teenage years.
Yeah.
Speaking of turbulence, the next tip is one I definitely need to work on: choosing your battles. The article stresses the importance of not overreacting to every little thing.
Mm.
Easier said than done when you're tripping over dirty laundry for the 100th time.
I hear you. It's a constant struggle for parents, right, to find that balance between setting boundaries and letting the small stuff slide. A helpful question to ask yourself is, will this matter in a week, a month, a year?
So eye-rolling and sarcastic sighs are probably not worth a major confrontation. But skipping school or breaking curfew are.
Right. Focus your energy on the things that truly impact their well-being and your family values. It's about picking your battle strategically, so you don't end up constantly nagging or lecturing, which, as we've discussed, can be counterproductive.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about being intentional with our energy and focusing on what really matters. Okay, last but not least, the article highlights the importance of regular check-ins, even just quick chats. Why is this consistency so important, especially as teens become more independent and maybe even a little more distant?
Think of it like tending a garden. Relationships need consistent nurturing, even when things are going well. Those regular check-ins, even if it's just a quick, how was your day,
Yeah.
text, or 5 minutes at dinner, keep those lines of communication open.
It's like we're sending a subtle but powerful message that we're present, we're available, and we care.
Exactly. It reinforces that you're there for them no matter what. And as teens navigate the challenges of adolescence, knowing they have that constant support can make a world of difference.
This has been incredibly eye-opening. We've covered active listening, asking the right questions, patience, creating a safe space, honesty, ditching the lectures, respecting boundaries, empathy, choosing our battles, and regular check-ins. It's a lot to take in, but I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together to build a stronger, healthier relationship with teenagers.
It's a journey, not a destination. And remember, you don't have to be perfect. Every effort you make to connect with your teen, even if it's a little awkward or messy at times, makes a difference.
I love that. It's about progress, not perfection.
Hmm.
So for all you listeners out there, navigating the world of teenagers might seem daunting, but it doesn't have to be a constant battle. These tips, even if you just pick one or two to focus on, can help you create a more open, trusting, and ultimately more loving relationship with the teens in your life. What's fascinating to me is how these seemingly simple communication tips actually tap into deeper psychological needs of teenagers. They're not just looking for someone to tell them what to do. They're looking for someone who sees them, hears them, and respects them as they figure out who they are.
Exactly. And when we can provide that kind of supportive environment, we empower them to become the best versions of themselves.
Beautifully said. So before we wrap up, what's one small change our listeners can make this week based on what we've discussed?
Yeah.
Something actionable they can implement right away?
I'd say start by simply noticing how you're communicating with the teenagers in your life. Are you truly listening? Are you asking open-ended questions? Are you creating that safe space for them to share their thoughts and feelings without judgment? Once you become aware of your own communication patterns, you can start making those small but powerful shifts.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
Even just being more mindful of how we interact to make a world of difference. And remember, even small efforts can have a big impact. You don't have to have all the answers. Just be present, be supportive, and be willing to learn and grow alongside your teen.
You've got this. It's all about building those connections one conversation at a time.
And who knows, maybe those grunts and eye rolls will eventually turn into actual words. I'm feeling optimistic.
As you should. Effective communication is a skill, and like any skill, it takes practice. The more you put these tips into action, the more natural they'll become.
And the stronger those bonds will be. This has been such a valuable deep dive. I know I'm walking away with some serious food for thought.
Me too. It's always a pleasure to unpack these topics and see how even seemingly simple advice can have such a profound impact.
Well, until next time, keep those conversations flowing. And remember, you're not alone in this journey. We're all in this together.
Absolutely. And if you ever need a reminder of these tips, you know where to find us.
That's right. Just hit rewind and let's dive back in. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. And you know what? Maybe all this focus on better communication will even help us understand ourselves a little better along the way.
I think you've hit on something really important there. So much of parenting is about self-reflection and growth. As we try to connect with our teenagers, we often uncover things about our own communication patterns and emotional baggage that we might not have even been aware of.
It's like that saying, the kids are our greatest teachers, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They challenge us to become more patient, more understanding, more empathetic versions of ourselves.
Well said.
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful note to end on. It's not just about improving communication with teenagers. It's about personal growth for everyone involved.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So to all our listeners out there, remember, you're not alone in this journey of figuring out this whole teenager thing.
Yeah.
We're all learning and growing together, one conversation at a time.
Absolutely. And if those conversations ever feel like they're hitting a brick wall, well, that's why we're here. Come back and dive in with us anytime you need a little reminder of these tips.
That's right. And until next time, keep those conversations flowing, keep learning, keep growing, and remember, connection is key. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. And you know what? Maybe all this focus on better communication will even help us, understand ourselves a little better along the way.
Yeah, I think you've hit on something really important there. So much of parenting is about self-reflection and growth, right?
Yeah.
As we try to connect with our teenagers, we often uncover things about our own communication patterns and emotional baggage that we might not have even been aware of.
It's like that saying, the kids are our greatest teachers.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. They challenge us to become more patient, more understanding, more empathetic versions of ourselves.
Well said. And I think that's a beautiful note to end on.
Yeah.
it's not just about improving communication with teenagers.
Right.
It's about personal growth
Yeah.
for everyone involved.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself.
So to all our listeners out there, remember, you're not alone in this journey of figuring out this whole teenager thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're all learning and growing together, one conversation at a time.
Absolutely. And if those conversations ever feel like they're hitting a brick wall, well, that's why we're here.
That's right.
Come back and dive in with us anytime you need a little reminder of these tips.
That's right. And until next time, keep those conversations flowing, keep learning, keep growing, and remember, connection is key. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.